Good morning, students. We are going to cover the key features of the Indian Constitution today. So, if you talk about the key features of the Indian Constitution, from where do we get the idea of having the Constitution? So, you are very well about the Indian national movement. Okay, we discussed this in the previous chapter also about the Indian national movement. So, the freedom fighters had struggled a lot to get us the independence, and that was the imagination of free India, from where that the thoughts of freedom, equality and decision making came. So democratic country it is because we have suffered a lot under the authoritarian rule of colonial government. So same, the basic is that only, that from where we got the idea of having the constitution, that we have suffered a lot under the authoritarian rule of British India, when Indian people were under the British rule. So they had faced hardships, they have suffered a lot, they know what is the value of being free and the equality, and what is the feeling of participating in electing the members of the government. So equal participation in decision making we wanted since far, but how did we achieve this? So this was done not by one person, but by a group of around 300 people. Okay, so that time we are talking about at the time of independence. So that time it was not done by one person, but by a group of around 300 people, that came to be known as the Constituent Assembly. Okay, so Constituent Assembly is a assembly which is just formed for the time being to do some purpose, to frame the constitution or to draft the constitution, and then this assembly is dissolved. It is not permanent. So some people, they come together and they form assembly to draft the constitution or to do some purpose, and then after that this assembly is dissolved. So it is called Constituent Assembly. So Constituent Assembly is a body of leaders. Okay, it was a body of leaders. So many leaders were there in this assembly, and they had a huge task of framing the constitution of the country. So who was known as the father of Indian Constitution? It's given in your book. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is known as the father of the Indian Constitution. So while framing the constitution, they had many challenges in front of them. Now, framing the constitution, why so many challenges were there? Because India is a diverse country. Okay, so much of diversity is there. People are there from different religion, different castes are there, low middle class people, high class people. So diversity is there, and partition was also there that time. Okay, you know that this Lahore parted from Punjab. So earlier it was in India. So these kind of partitions also affected. So these kind of challenges were there. Then integration of princely states, Rajputs, Rajwadas, kings. So some states were there which were under the princess rules. So it was very difficult to integrate them, because they were having their own rules, they were having their own kingdoms. So how to bring them into one constitution? So that was a big challenge. So they had faced lot many challenges to frame the constitution and to bring the country into one. So working over these challenges, Constituent Assembly gave a visionary document. So first, visionary means you see something in the future. Okay, you take everything in consideration, what all is there at the present time, and then you give one document which is a visionary, means in the future you see like that, you have a vision like that, that in the future we see our country like that. So that visionary document which was given, in that diversity plus national unity was combined. So diversity means diverse people, different people, variety of people, plus they have to become under the national unity. Unity means one. So we have to make them one. Then concern for socio-economic development also. That means social development should also be there. Economic. Social means the society, okay, around us, the people around us. And economic means it is related to money. Financial development also should be there. So key features of the Indian constitution which we are going to study are federalism, parliamentary form of the government, which we have already studied in the parliament chapter, so it will be easy for you to understand. Then separation of powers, fundamental rights, very interesting topic. Then secularism. Okay, so let's first talk about federalism. So what do you mean by federalism? It means existence of more than one level of government in the country. So if you talk about, you know that different elections are taking place at the state level, at the central level, at the local level. So we have three types of government. That is local government, which is ruling at the villages, like Panchayati Raj you studied. Then above that, second is state government, which is doing work for the welfare of the people at the state level. And then central government means the national government, which is working for the whole nation. So what was the need of federalism? Means why was there the need to divide the government into three parts? So vast number of communities were there. Okay, vast number of communities were there in India. You know, India's diverse country, so many communities were there. And then how can a single government can govern all the communities? So it was very tough. Now you see, you take the example of a classroom. In the classroom, I am there, I am the in charge, and you are my students. So I have divided the duties. We always divide the duties now. You take the collection duty, you distribution duty, then chalk duty. Okay, then monitor is there. So girls monitor, boys monitor. So why I do this? I do this to ease myself, okay, so that because it is not possible for me to govern all the activities of the classroom at the same time. So that's why I have assigned some people to the category to look after that function. Okay, so same way, India is a vast community. So many people were there from different communities. So that's why, to look after them, to look for the welfare of them, we have different levels of the government. So it is important to have another level of government, that is called federalism. So federalism means existence of more than one level of government in the country to work for the welfare of the people. Now under the federalism, India is a federal country. Okay, so federalism in India, in this, states enjoy autonomy in exercising power, but at the same time they follow the laws of the central government. No doubt, we have assigned different governments. We have different governments at different levels. Now state government is working on its own level, so it enjoys so many rights. It has power, it enjoy its own rights, it enjoy its own laws. But it is not like that it can go against the central government. No, they have to follow the laws of the central government. Though they have power, they enjoy autonomy. Autonomy means self-powered. Okay, so they enjoy that thing, but at the same time they have to follow the laws of the central government. And constitution contain lists that specify the law making power of each tier. You have studied this. Tier means the different levels of the government. So constitution contain lists that specify the law making power of each tier. Now what local government will do, what state government will do. So likewise we have divided the laws according to the each tier. It also specify the source of money for each tier of government. We have already studied this in Panchayati Raj, also in the 6th standard, 7th standard, that from where sources of money is coming, the government is giving them money. Okay, and for each tier of government, from where they are procuring money and they are using it. So example, union list, state list, and concurrent list. So under these lists there are different categories which are divided. Okay, in the union list means in the central list. So the central issues are coming in this. In the state list, you can say the marriage laws or the agricultural laws are coming under this. And in the concurrent list, education system comes. Okay, so under federalism, the states are not merely agent of the federal government but draw their authority from the constitution as well. So what happens under federalism? The states are not merely, it is not like that, fine, they have power, states have power to enjoy the autonomy, and we cannot say that they are agent of the federal government. Okay, they have the power to draw their authority from the constitution as well. Okay, then number 2 is parliamentary form of government. We have already studied this in the parliament, why do we need parliament chapter, so it is pretty much clear to you now. So again we'll just revise the things. So what do you understand by the heading parliamentary form of government? Means it was related to the parliament. So parliament, you know, it is the supreme legislative body of the country, and it comprises of two houses, Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, which are elected and they make laws for the country. So a form of government based on parliament, elected representative. We know Constitution of India guarantees universal adult franchisee, means voting right to all who are 18 and above, whereby people of India directly elected their representatives. In the Lok Sabha elections, directly people are elected, representatives are elected by the people. At the same time, they can contest in elections also. So see, it is it's a very good point here that people can vote also and they can contest in the elections also. So much of you can say freedom we have, that we can give vote also and we also have the right to contest in elections. We can also stand up as a candidate and contest in the elections against someone. So under parliamentary form of government, people elect their representatives and these representatives are accountable to the people. Now what do you mean by accountable? Accountable means answerable. If the people ask any question to the representatives, they have to be answerable to them. They cannot deny them, they cannot avoid them at any cost. Now separation of powers, number 3. Separation of powers means, same way you take the classroom example, so different things are there. Okay, so I am there, you are there, so monitors are there, and then cleanliness monitor is there, eco monitor is there. So different monitors we have assigned to uh, to make the job easy and so that everything should function properly. Okay, what do you understand by the heading? From the heading only you can very easily understand that separation of powers means dividing the power, dividing or sharing of power. So there are 3 organs of the government: legislature, executive and judiciary. Legislature means the lawmaking of the body, our elected representatives. Then executive means group of people responsible for implementing laws in the country, example police, PM, etc. Okay, and judiciary means if any executive is not working properly, if in the legislature something is not right, so it can be forwarded to the judiciary. So it is a system of court in the country, example Supreme and High Court. Okay, so legislature has its own function, executive has their own functions, judiciary has their own function. So it is called separation of powers. Powers are separated in them for the proper functioning of the country, and power is shared among these 3 organs. Now why power is shared? For example, if one government is there and they are doing everything, okay, for example legislature is there and executive and judiciary is not there, so legislature is doing the executive part also and legislature is doing the judiciary part also, what will happen then? It can misuse its powers. Okay, it can misuse its power means there will be no one to question them, to raise question on them. So they will do what they wish, what they want to do, they will do according to their wish. So nobody is there to raise questions. So if all the power will go to one body, then they can misuse the power and the functioning of the country will be affected somehow. So that's why. So power is shared among these three organs. Why? In order to prevent the misuse of power by anyone, organ of the government, constitution says that each of these organs should exercise different power. And this develops system of checks and balances. So that's why that system of checks and balances there. For example, I'm in the class, I'm taking care of the anybody is not hurting anyone, anybody is not saying bad to anything, and another person is there, so he is also looking about that all are wearing proper uniform. So like separation of power is there, separation of duties is there, so one person can keep the check on others also. Okay, so it is like cross checking, and if cross checking is there, then always improvement is there. Okay, otherwise if only one body will do the whole work, then what will happen? No flaws will be there, no improvements will be there. So that's why it is called balance of power. So point to learn, one point is there, that don't get confused between the state and the government. So this state word can be used for the country also, for the nation also. If I talk about state here, in because in the next concepts we will be studying this somewhere, it most of the places it will come as written the Indian state. Okay, so Indian state means the whole India, the nation India. Okay, it is not the state. Means state doesn't mean that Madhya Pradesh, Punjab. So state is a whole word, you can say, which is used for the country India. And government, you know that it is the law making body. Okay, so government is different thing and state is different thing. So if anywhere now in the next slides, if Indian state will come, that means Indian country. Okay, state is used for the country also. Now next is my favorite topic, that is fundamental rights. We always say I have the right to speak, I have the right to do this, I have the right to go out, you cannot stop me. Do we do this? Yes, right. So why do we do that? Because we have fundamental rights which are provided to us by the Indian Constitution. So fundamental rights are referred as the conscience of the Indian Constitution. Now what do you mean by conscience? Conscience means the soul, the wisdom, the mind. Okay, so it is the soul of the Indian Constitution, it is the crux of the Indian Constitution. Okay, conscience, it is the soul, it is the inner true voice of the Indian Constitution, which is referred to as fundamental rights. So learning from the past experiences of the colonial rule means we have suffered hardships, we have seen difficult times during the rule of British India, that how they used to empower us, how they used to make us feel low. So all these we have experienced. So these fundamental rights, these ensures our rights in the country, that nobody can stop us or nobody can push us or suppress us is anything. We have the right to express our ideas. So constitution makers wanted to ensure a set of written rights that would guard against the misuse of state. So here state means country India. Even so means even if the whole of country goes against you. Okay, example I'm giving you, even if the whole of the country people goes against you, but still there is a constitution which will stand by you, which will ensure that you have the right to do it. Your rights will be conserved even if everybody goes against you. So fundamental rights protect citizens against the arbitrary and absolute exercise of power by state, by the country. Arbitrary means at present, or absolute means definite exercise of power by state as well as other individuals. So if anybody is using any power at present or absolute definitely, then it fundamental rights can protect the citizens. And fundamental rights guarantees the right of minorities against the majority. Means there should be no discrimination on the basis of majority and minorities. So the minorities have also their own rights. So it guarantees the rights to them also. If you look at the this cyclic representation, so we have 6 fundamental rights. Okay, so first is then right to freedom, right to equality, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies, right against exploitation. So first of all, right to freedom. What do you mean by right to freedom? Right to freedom means you have the right to go anywhere, you have the right to express your ideas also. Right to freedom. Freedom means, you from the word only you can easily understand that freedom means to do one's own will, to do anything according to your wish. So you have the right to go out, nobody can stop you. You have the right to express your ideas and thoughts. Okay, that is your freedom. So you have the freedom, you are a citizen of free India, so you have the freedom to do anything. But your freedom should not disturb others freedom also. Example, don't ever try to go on the terrace or in the balcony and play music on the high volume, and at that too at the middle of the night. So don't say that I will play the music because I have the right to freedom. Excuse me, then you are exploiting others' freedom also. So what about their freedom then? Okay, so think, you have to do the things which should not disturb, which should not block others' freedom also. So right to freedom means you should be happy, but let others also be happy. So next is right to equality. So equality words, from the equality, that irrespective of any caste, creed, religion, we cannot discriminate anyone. Okay, for example, if there is one vacancy and there are people, there are candidates who are appearing for the interview, so we cannot discriminate on the basis of any from the middle class, any from the higher class, or any from the minorities, or any from the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe. So it has to be open to all, so that vacancy should be open to all, it should be equal for all, and anybody could apply for that. Okay, the third one is right to freedom of religion. Now religion, means any person can practice, propagate, or profess any religion. Okay, so it is not like that. Even if you are born in a Sikh family, so nobody can impose, not even your parents can impose that you have to follow the Sikh religion only. It is your wish that whenever you grow up, or you want to change your religion, you want to follow any other religion, you have the freedom to do that. Okay, so right to freedom of religion, you cannot be bounded to one religion. You have the freedom that whatever religion you want to adapt, you can practice and preach that religion. Okay, then cultural and educational rights. So in that means, like, small tribal peoples are there, minorities are there, minorities are small tribal people, okay, who are less in number, so they have their own culture. Okay, like if you talk about education also, Islam people, they have madrasa system. Okay, so that is called educational rights. So they also have the right, that is called cultural and educational rights. They have the right to preserve their culture. Minorities like tribal people, they have the rights to preserve their culture and to preserve their education system also. Now, and in the culture, it is not only religion. Okay, in the culture, religion is also coming and the language is also coming. So language can also be conserved. They have the right to conserve their language also. Now, right against exploitation. Right against exploitation means Nobody should be exploited for anything. Like human trafficking is there. Human trafficking means uh, buying and selling the people, especially in some parts of the India, like West Bengal, Kolkata. It is a trade that the girls are bought and they are sold. Okay, that is called human trafficking. Even the small children, they are bought and sold by the people just to make them beggars or to make them to exploit them. So this is called exploitation, human exploitation, human trafficking. Then forcing the labor, forcing the people to do the labor. Okay, if you are a rich merchant, then you have some people under you and they are under debt. So they you don't have the right to exploit them. Okay, even if the boss is there, even if the employee is there, so boss also don't have the right to exploit the employee. They have the right against exploitation. Okay, nobody can exploit them. And child labor also, so you know that under the age of 14 years no child is allowed to do labor. So that is also right against exploitation. So in this, human trafficking, unwanted people doing labor, and child labor also comes. Now the last and very important right is right to constitutional remedies. Now what do you mean by this right to constitutional remedies? Now if you talk about all these five rights which we have studied, now if any of these rights is violated, if any of these rights is violated, so we have the right to go to the court and ask for the justice. That comes under article 32. Okay, that if any of the right is exploited, is if any of the right is violated, for example, I'm not getting my freedom, I'm not getting my equality, I'm not, somebody is forcing me to adapt any religion. Okay, so if any of the right is exploited from the these five, then we have the right to go to the court and get the justice. That is called right to constitutional remedies. We have the right to get the remedies, the protection we will get. Okay, so these were all about the fundamental rights. So Dr. Ambedkar's observation about fundamental rights, twofold objectives. So when he, you know that he is known as the father of Indian Constitution. So when the Constitution was about to written, so he was there and twofold objectives were made. Twofold objectives were, what objectives were kept in mind while framing the Constitution? That every citizen must be in a position to claim those rights. Means every citizen should have the knowledge of these rights and they should be in a position to claim these rights, and these rights must be binding upon every authority that has got the power to make laws. Now which authority has got the power to make laws? Parliament. Okay, so these rights must be binding upon every authority. Binding upon every authority means they are above all. These rights are above all, means even on the top of the government these fundamental rights are. So even government cannot exploit these rights. So these fundamental rights are above all, which preserve our citizenship, which protects the citizens. Okay, so Indian Constitution also have a section called directive principles. It's a spelling mistake here, F will not come, principles, directive principles of state policy. Now what is this directive principles of state policy? Here state again means country, India. So there are some principles which are given to the country to be followed. Okay, it is a different topic. So directive principles of state policy are the principles which are given to the government to follow. Indian Constitution also have a section, it is a separate section, directive principles of the state policy. So Indian policy, they are working on the principles which are given to them. Okay, so the section is included to ensure greater social and economic reforms and to guide to the independent Indian state. For example, living wages for the workers. Now next last topic of today is secularism. Secularism means, what is the meaning of secular? Meaning of secular is not connected with religious matter. Now for example, you take your book, you take your civics book. Civics book is not a religious book, so that means it is a secular book. Okay, your book is a secular book because it is not connected with religious matter. Then what is a secular state? Secular state, a state which does not officially promote any one religion as the state religion. Means in India we have different religions followed by different people. We do not promote any one of the religion as the state religion. We cannot say that Hindu is the religion of India. No. Okay, so that's why we say that India is a secular country. It has different religions. So no religion is given extra benefits, and nor any religion is ignored on any matter. Okay, so these are the 5 main points, the key features of the Indian Constitution. I hope it's clear to you now. So again, let's conclude what we have learned. We have learned the key features of the Indian Constitution: federalism. We talked about parliamentary form of government. We talked about separation of powers. We studied about our fundamental rights, and last we studied about the concept of secularism. Okay, so this is all for today. Now you can ahead for the assignment part, so do it carefully, and till we'll meet in the next topic in the next chapter. So till then, take care. Bye bye.